The problem with Toblerone, this shit gets stuck in your teeth.
Oh, you should try Dame.
That's
Dame
Here's
gets
another
toffee.
question. Why are duty-free shops always chock-a-block full of Toblerone?
I don't know.
What the hell is with Toblerone and duty-free shops? Why are there so much taxes on Toblerone? Every time I go to an airport, I'm like, what's with all the Toblerone? Like massive bars.
Maybe there is a lot of tax on it.
Huge triangles that big. Fucking Giza is sitting in the duty-free shops. Why is there so much
What's up, guys? Okay, for those of you who are wondering what's up with all these podcasts and what happened to the videos we've been doing for a long time, like social experiments, pranks, and skits, don't worry, because we're still gonna keep making them and we're in the midst of producing a bunch of them. But if you've been following us for a while, you know that a big part of our channel is always evolving as creators and always trying new formats, and to never stick to the same old type of videos. So we are gonna keep experimenting with new ideas and formats like this podcast. We're honestly not sure how some of these ideas will go, but one thing we can guarantee you is that it's always gonna be something we believe in. Even then, if it's not up your alley, that's totally fine. Okay, you can check out our other videos on our channel, on our Facebook page, and just come back for the types of content that you like. Thanks for listening, and on to the podcast!
Alright, so today we have Dr. Prash Puspanathan, right? So he's a doctor, he's a psychiatrist, he's also the CEO and co-founder of a Bitcoin brokerage based in Australia called Caleb & Brown.
Correct.
So, of course, the first thing we would like to talk about today is Bitcoin, because that is the hot topic of the world. But my first question is, you're Singaporean, right?
Yeah.
Why the fuck do you have an accent?
The short answer is that I never really had a Singaporean accent. I grew up with my mum having the BBC World Service sort of glued to my left ear, and so I always grew up with a relatively neutral accent, which is fine now, it's great now, but growing up as that kid with the wanky accent made me really, really popular.
And I can attest to this because I know Prashant for 21 years almost.
I think so, yeah.
Back in secondary school, and you were an annoying wanky kid.
So wait, but you must give the context. So you went to school in Singapore all the way until...
I grew up in Singapore, was born and bred, did NS here, and then moved to Australia 13 years ago.
Okay.
For studies?
Yep, for medical school.
Medical school. And how come you haven't come back?
There are certain freedoms that are afforded one in places like Australia.
Yeah.
Freedom of thought, cognitive liberties, which perhaps aren't exercised to the same level in Singapore, would be my way of answering that question.
Very, very nice. I see you've been asked this a lot. So you studied in Singapore, went through the Singapore system, went through army.
Yes.
Went to do medical school in Australia. Then how the hell did you end up doing Bitcoin?
That's the question I've been asked probably more often. I got into cryptocurrencies primarily because of the philosophy of it, which is something that's probably worth talking about. But that's really what drew me into it. Yes, there's the financial component of it. What really got me interested was the philosophy of it. And working in psychiatry, really at the end of the day, when you drill down to what psychiatry really is, it's a study in philosophy. It's a study of what is normal and what is abnormal. It's a study of how we assign normality to certain things and how we assign abnormality to certain things. It's almost impossible to work and live in the psychiatric paradigm without considering philosophy. And cryptocurrencies is one of the first things that have come about recently, at least in modern times. They've really challenged one of the primary underlying paradigms, philosophical paradigms we all live in, which is the philosophy behind value.
So you didn't do it just to get rich?
Not just.
Okay.
Helps though.
So now
certainly helps.
Now are you still doing psychiatry?
I still work at the Alfred Hospital in Melbourne.
You still do it. For how many days a week?
About 2 days a week.
And the rest of your time is spent on Caleb and Brown, your Bitcoin brokerage.
All of my time.
Okay, so before we get into what a Bitcoin brokerage even is, right? So I've tried to read up a little bit on Bitcoin, but there's still so many things I'm not sure about, and I think a lot of the listeners and viewers of our channel would also have some idea. But if you could explain very laymanish, right? What exactly Bitcoin is to a person? Just treat me like an idiot and that I have no idea what Bitcoin is.
I always have, Haresh. I always have.
For 21 years.
This will not be a hard transition to make. Right. This is difficult because it very much comes down to how deep do you want to go into
I think
this.
okay, maybe we just do a very top line thing
Sure,
first, and then where
course.
we want to dig, we dig. We dig deeper.
So the difficulty in understanding Bitcoin is that to understand Bitcoin, you first need to understand cryptocurrencies. To understand cryptocurrencies, you need to first understand blockchain technology, which is the underlying technology that underpins this. To understand blockchain technology, you need to first understand cryptography, which again is the sort of security protocol that determines all of this. And then you need to take everything you know about money and financial markets and value and chuck it all out the window, and then combine this vacuum that you've now created with all of this new knowledge. And that's where it starts. That's when you really start to understand what this new paradigm is.
Okay, so the first thing you're telling me I need to do is forget everything I know about money.
Everything you know about money.
That's good, because I thought I had to have some idea of what that is to be able to understand Bitcoin.
No, it doesn't actually help very much. I had someone recently go, explain Bitcoin to me. It's like, it'll take a while. It's like, just give it to me in 3 minutes. I have a finance degree. I was like, ooh, it's going to take a long time then.
Okay.
Mainly because we have very set ideas on what value is, on what money is, and what something, how something is assigned value. It's things that we don't ever question.
Okay.
For example, one of the things that one of the criticisms that's often leveled against Bitcoin is that, it has no intrinsic value. What is it? What is it? It's just numbers and things that are on your computer.
So you mean it's not backed like something like gold or something like
that's
money
often
is?
what it says. It's not backed. But when you think about it, what intrinsic value do the numbers in your bank account really have?
I mean, it has value because there are other things with ascribed value that you can use your money to purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're saying that is because someone else has determined that is worth something.
Yeah.
That which really is all value is. If someone is willing to pay something for something, then it has value.
Okay.
And with fiat currency or conventional currency as we know it, we call it fiat currency.
Fiat currency.
That's right, like the car.
FIAT.
And what's that term?
That's conventional money, dollar money,
Okay.
pounds, sterling, yen.
Okay.
With common fiat currency, it's backed by a government.
Mm-hmm.
Right? A government. This is note is legal tender. The government has guaranteed that this is worth this particular much. Whereas cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin, are backed by and solely by the users. They are returned to a true free market economy in that it's the users that determine the value of it. If a user says that I will pay you this much for a Bitcoin, then it's worth that much. If a user says I will pay you 14 goats for a Bitcoin, then the value of a Bitcoin is 14 goats.
Okay.
It's determined entirely and purely by the user as opposed to that by a government.
Okay.
Now, this can get problematic because people traditionally have used the government as a trusted source. So I believe that this $10 note is worth $10 because the government says so, because I believe in my government.
Okay.
That is dependent on one key principle, you believing in your government.
Mm.
It's all well and good if you live in Singapore where we all believe in our government.
Not all. But that's a topic for another day.
A topic for another day.
Yeah.
But you try saying that to someone in Venezuela who's had to cart wheelbarrows of cash down to the grocery store to buy a loaf of bread.
Yeah.
You try saying this to your grandmother who lived in the time of the Japanese occupation and had to do the same thing with banana money.
Yeah.
You try telling someone in Iceland whose currency was devalued in half at the time of the financial crisis. You tell any of them about government backed and they laugh in your face.
Okay.
Which leads us to really question what this idea of government backed really means and how much trust we give to a government backed currency in the first place.
Okay.
Cryptocurrencies are backed by one thing, which is mathematics. They're all defined by an algorithm, and mathematics is irrefutable, it's immutable, can never be changed.
So what do you mean defined by mathematics? Because previously you said the value is defined by the users.
Sorry, that is true.
Yeah.
Consider governments can devalue currencies.
Yeah.
Governments can cause inflation, governments can print more money, whereas with cryptocurrencies, because they're all defined by mathematics and an equation, you can't do any of that.
Okay.
It's all set.
So maybe even before talking about how cryptocurrencies seem like an improvement to the current monetary system, what is a cryptocurrency?
Fair. Should probably start with that, shouldn't we?
That's fine. It's
Yeah.
free flowing.
Yeah.
Free flowing. Yeah.
So cryptocurrencies are digital assets. Conventionally, they're talked about as digital currencies we're trying to move away from the term digital currencies because they're not just currencies. A currency is something we use for exchange, whereas some of the digital assets, some of the cryptocurrencies are better as value stores, for example.
Okay.
They are, if you want to talk about them as currencies, they are online currencies in a way, that they're electronically exchanged. They're not backed by a government. They are not backed by a bank. The key component behind them is that they're a decentralized economy. So a bank could be a centralizing agency, and these are economies that have no centralizing agency. So
then where does the Bitcoin come from?
So the Bitcoin was written into an algorithm. Now the history of Bitcoin is very murky, and Bitcoin is only one of the many cryptocurrencies out there.
Yeah.
The history is incredibly murky. Its creation is attributed to someone or some people or something called Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay.
No one knows who it is. No one knows how many people that is. And he or it has been credited with writing the original code, which designed this protocol. And that was then launched into effectively the internet. And that has become the algorithm that defines Bitcoin today.
Okay.
The very first Bitcoin transaction that we know of was 1 Bitcoin for 2 pizzas. Based on current market value, that's about a $7,500 pizza.
Damn. So that means Bitcoin. Okay, so like a bank has money in like it regulates the flow of money, like the cash flow in the economy. So am I right to say that Bitcoin is like a bank in the internet that is run by its users?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, except there is no bank per se. So there isn't one central agency that controls how much that is worth.
Okay.
Its value is designed solely by how much people are willing to pay for it.
So that means how many Bitcoin are there?
So one of the key things that differentiate Bitcoin from other digital assets, a lot of other digital assets, is that there are a fixed number of Bitcoin. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That's been written into the algorithm, and not all of them have been released as yet.
Okay. So then what releases Bitcoin?
So there's a process known as Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, I've heard that.
You've heard that term.
Yeah.
And if you assume that it's a bunch of little leprechauns sitting inside a computer sort of hacking away, no, that was a nice romantic ideal. But it's a complex means of... It's a computer solving very complex mathematical problems, effectively, which requires a huge amount of computing power. And as the computers, the various nodes or miners all around the world, all competing to solve these puzzles. And these puzzles are essentially deciphering the transactions that are happening along the Bitcoin network.
So these puzzles are not meaningless puzzles?
No. It's not some weird Mensa IQ test. No. We would call them puzzles, but it's a mathematical equations that is trying to work out to legitimize all the transactions that are happening in the system.
Okay.
And as it's almost like a lottery, that at certain time intervals, as certain number of these equations get solved, a new Bitcoin is released.
Okay.
And that's written into the algorithm. And so when that gets released, that will get assigned to the miner who has gotten through and solved as many of those puzzles or equations that are necessary to then release that coin.
So it's like a real-time exam.
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
Now, having those miners, those computers solving these equations are necessary to keep the network running.
Okay.
Because that's what keeps the transaction loop flowing. And how do you incentivize these miners to keep this transaction loop going? The incentivization comes from this Bitcoin being released every now and then. So it's actually a really clever system that self-modulates and rewards people to... I think of it as like, streets would be a lot cleaner if you knew that there were gold coins, like little or gold specks scattered every now and then. It would incentivize people to go out there and sweep the streets voluntarily if they knew that every now and then they would find a little gold nugget.
So if I'm hearing correctly, it means that the computers are like competing to solve those puzzles, and every time they solve that puzzle, they get rewarded with some form of compensation.
With a
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin that gets released.
Okay, and that actually is the process of tracking,
mining and creating new coins, and it's a process of tracking the transactions that are happening throughout the network.
I see. Okay.
Now like I said, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That number is fixed. I can't remember what percentage we are at the moment. Something like 70 to 80% have been mined. As we get closer and closer and closer, the interval between the time when these coins get released will get longer and longer and longer. So coins will be released less frequently. Which you would think rationally would de-incentivize people from continuing to run this process. But consider that the value of Bitcoin is also going up faster and faster and faster. So the more Bitcoins are worth, even if even if you're only going to get a Bitcoin once every 2 weeks or once every week or once every 3 days, as opposed to previously when you were getting it one a day. If at that point a Bitcoin was worth $2,000, but now it's worth $20,000, it's still worth your time.
Yeah. So that means, just to clarify my own understanding, right now it's almost like after every X minutes or hours, a bunch of Bitcoin will be released.
Yeah.
And it goes to almost like the highest bidder, except that they're bidding with their computational
power.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Yeah. And this computational power requires huge amounts of energy.
And what the computers are computing is stuff that you said records the transactions of.
Yeah, and keeps the network running. Think of it as like a constant maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now they're incentivized to do the work so that when the Bitcoins are released, they will get it. But what happens at the end of the cycle when we have all 21 million in the system?
Well, the theory goes that you will never actually hit the 21 million ever. So it's almost like a projection towards infinity.
Also, it's like radioactive decay kind of thing.
Yes.
Degree.
To make it sound really, really ominous. So it's like radioactive decay. Please explain radioactive decay.
Yeah. So radioactive decay, from what I understand, is there's this term called a half-life, which means that let's say you start with 100 of something. That means if it takes 5 hours to go down to 50, that means that the half-life is 5 hours. But from 50 to 25, the half-life could be 10 hours. Then from 25 to 12.5, the half-life will be 28 hours.
Will it ever hit zero?
Yeah, so technically...
Or approximate towards zero, but it may not ever hit zero. So that's this.
So that means like maybe in 20 years down the road, one Bitcoin might come every 5 years, but it might be worth 5 million.
Correct. So in addition to the releasing of new Bitcoins, with every transaction that happens within the Bitcoin network, now this is where we've got to get back to understanding blockchain technology.
Yeah.
So blockchain technology is based on the idea of what they call a blockchain. So the key principle behind cryptocurrencies and this technology is that, let's say that first transaction we talked about, the two pizzas for a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Assume that was the first ever transaction. Now that single Bitcoin, if you even consider it a thing, right? Let's say that next transaction that happened, that gets recorded in a ledger, almost like written down a book. Let's start again. Let's say here, I have a Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I pay it to you. That gets written down in a book, in a ledger.
Okay.
Then when you pay Terence that Bitcoin, when Terence receives that Bitcoin, what he receives is not a coin. What he receives effectively is that book, which reads Prash to Haresh to Terence. Now you pay someone else. Now 100 transactions down the line, that what that person receives is a book that reads Prash to Haresh to Terence to Sophie to Monk to, and it goes on and on and on. The idea of the blockchain is a ledger that's continuous, never gets changed, never gets destroyed.
Okay. Wow. So then who does that recording?
Now that's what a lot of the computational power is based on. Each of these transactions need to be recorded onto the blockchain, needs to be registered onto the blockchain, and needs to be confirmed by other nodes on the network.
And how is that done?
To validate the authenticity of it. Again, that's going to technicalities of the computational power. But again, it's that same computational network putting in power. And so for every one of these Bitcoin transactions, there's a small fee, which is a small percentage fee that gets paid. And that is determined based on how busy the network is, how quickly you want to get these transactions across. And the miners take a very, very small fee. And it's a tiny microscopic fee, but that all adds up for one. And over time, more and more people are coming on board to add computational power to this network. So that total pool is being divided by a lot more people. But again, as you start to think about how you incentivize people to keep this going, over time...
What the fuck? See, people are not supposed to drill during working hours.
That's drilling. I thought it was a cow or something. But yeah. Sorry, computational.
Over time, as the price of Bitcoin increases, then even if there's multiple people competing for the same amount of transactions that carry out, and for the same percentage of that transaction fee, because it's a percentage game, when the value of a Bitcoin is $200,000, that percentage game will be worth a lot more than now when the value of Bitcoin is $20,000.
So that means, unlike regular currency, if I have $2, or if I don't have $2, I'm going to lunch. I have Terence, lend me $10. He gives me $10, and the next day I give him back. It sounds a lot easier than having to go through this process of like handing over Bitcoin.
That's true, and that is why I don't see Bitcoin ever becoming a replacement for fiat currency or for
you don't?
currency. I don't. So that's why there are so many other cryptocurrencies.
Isn't that sacrilegious in the Bitcoin community?
It is not, because you must let me finish. There are a whole heap of other cryptocurrencies out there which are traditionally known as alt currencies, mainly because they are alternates to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has got a lot of there are a lot of reasons why Bitcoin will not be a currency that's used day to day. The transaction fees start to get expensive. Transaction times can be very slow. There are all these reasons that, like you just said, this whole process can be quite convoluted. But Bitcoin's future, we'll talk about that in a bit maybe, is as a value store. There are other currencies, the currencies like Litecoin, the currencies like EOS, which have their own value proposition, particular value proposition, in that the transaction fees may be very low, their transaction speeds may be really quick, and they're the ones that will start to become the currencies that we use.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
So you're saying that there'll be no point in the future where we go to a supermarket and like, oh, this thing costs how many Bitcoin, or that I'm buying a house and then it's going to cost.
Hey, Terence, give me a drink. I need some Bitcoin.
But it may be something else. Maybe a different digital currency.
So are you saying that digital currencies? Okay, Bitcoin is not going to replace fiat currencies, but digital currencies will.
That's the way I see the world developing.
Okay. Yeah. So that means digital currencies. Bitcoin is one of many digital currencies.
Yes.
And not is every digital currency cryptocurrency?
Yes.
It is.
They're sort of interchangeable because they're based on cryptography.
Okay, and cryptography, I mean, if you break it down, cryptography means some code.
It's encryption. It's complex encryption and how you maintain the security of a network or the transaction using encryption.
Okay, so my layman understanding is that it's meant to be something that stores value, a bit like what old woman putting money underneath a mattress.
You're talking about Bitcoin?
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it's not, but maybe transactionally, it's not the best solution.
It's not the best solution, but there are other alt currencies which will be useful for that purpose.
Okay.
When you start thinking of these alt currencies, and there are so many of them now, you start to realize the simplicity or the lack of sophistication of fiat currency as we know it now, which is one thing that is used for all these different purposes. Just wait for that drilling to stop.
It's okay.
Okay.
Fiat currencies are they're simple. They're very unsophisticated. It's one thing that we use for everything. Whereas alt currencies, each particular currency has its own value proposition. So for example, we talked about things like Litecoin. It's called Litecoin. It's fast, it's quick, it's cheap, it's easy to transact. You have things like Ethereum, which you may have heard of. It's got the second largest market capital after Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Ethereum's main value proposition is in B2B transactions. So business to business transactions. It has systems built in called smart contracts, which probably too much to go into, but effectively think of money that pays itself. So where you can set up a smart contract where almost if this then that sort of protocol, and the contract will pay itself out, which is pretty fascinating in terms of the prospects that holds for business to business relations. Whereas you can't do any of that with money. We live in a time where the different currencies are defined by geographical boundaries, not by usage boundaries. But hopefully we can move away from those geographical boundaries to different currencies being defined by the value that they provide.
So you're saying that fiat currencies are going to be obsolete soon. What they're replaced by, we don't know.
We don't know. I look forward to the day where the money you hold isn't worth the paper it's printed on. I don't think that will happen in our. I'm sure it won't happen in our lifetime. But perhaps at some point in the future.
So okay, the one thing, like right now, as much as you can imagine, okay, for monetary systems to be set up for over the past decades, you needed a government.
Yes.
But then now, if the government is hearing like there's this free market money, I don't know, like growing up in Singapore, right? Like there always needs to be someone in charge of something. So when this kind of things gets out, right?
Yeah.
Is Singapore ready for this or not? I know Singapore's not ready for an Indian Prime Minister. Is it ready for cryptocurrencies?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Now I know the MAS has been quite welcoming of this change. I don't know how much of that is because they truly see this as this philosophical change that they want to embrace, or how much of this is because they're shitting themselves and they desperately need to get a handle on this, or how much of this is because they see how much money there is to be made and they want to get their slice of the pie. All three of which are very valid reasons to get involved.
Yeah.
But MAS has been allowing, or at least they haven't been putting all that many regulatory restrictions on things like ICOs that are happening in Singapore. I'm here in Singapore working on to meet with some of the guys who are releasing one of the big ICOs that's coming out in Singapore.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask you what an ICO is in a minute.
In a minute. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I think it will happen. Singapore never wants to fall behind the curve, at least in financial terms. It's always prided itself on being on the forefront of the financial industry.
Yeah.
So it would be stupid for them to ignore this.
So I still have a lot of questions. So okay, Bitcoin, crypto. Okay, blockchain.
Yes.
What's blockchain?
So blockchain is what we were talking about earlier in terms of the ledger.
Okay.
The ledger that continues on from the start.
Okay.
From the time you first start recording it, and that it cannot be destroyed. You can't ever go back and change it. And it continues on till the end of time.
So pop culture reference, it's kind of like that Game of Thrones. They have that whole ledger of who married who and who are the relations between all the different houses, and that just lasts forever. And you go back to the library and check it when you need to know.
Exactly. Which means that it has a lot of purposes outside of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
So things like medical records, I see as one of the big users of blockchain technology.
Yeah.
So if you can put medical records on the blockchain, then your medical records all of a sudden become instantly available to you. It can be taken anywhere. It can't be changed. It can be accessed by anyone. And you have that. How many times have you looked back and, hey, when did I have that TB shot? When did I have my last tetanus booster?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember. But it's all on the blockchain.
But you could argue that systems that are in place now, they do have a chronological sequence of all your appointments, right?
True.
So in some way, that is a gradual build-up of everything you've done. So how is blockchain different?
Well, for one, these systems don't necessarily integrate well with each other. So one hospital...
Oh, you mean like CGH, SGH?
Yeah, exactly.
They don't integrate well? You're kidding me.
I mean, even just paper and digital, right?
Don't integrate well. Yeah. And yes, you can say, well, oh no, but why can't we just convert everything to digital? And then, then we put it all in the cloud. And we can do... Yes, there's a lot of things that you can do with our present paradigms and present technologies.
Yeah.
But why not with the future technology that will streamline all of this?
Then what makes it so hard to change previous records in a blockchain?
You can't change
a blockchain a term? A blockchain?
Yeah, it is a term. So that blockchain is that one continuous thread. Yeah. And the whole point is that you cannot change it. And it's useful.
Is there a reason why you cannot? Or what
That's the whole principle behind it. The whole point is that it cannot be changed. If it's happened, it's been recorded. Why would you want to go back and change it?
I mean, you never know, man. I mean, okay, so one thing I know about Bitcoin is that it got big on the dark web for drug deals and so given that there's always going to be people out there who want to fuck things over and bring the world down and just fuck things up, I'm guessing there'll be at least a few people who would want to go back and change part of a blockchain. So is there something particular about blockchain that prevents it from being changed? Or is that too technical?
It is, that is probably getting too technical, other than the fact that is the entire basis. It's already been written down.
Yeah.
The pin's been written down and there's no liquid paper.
There's no liquid paper. What if someone invents the liquid paper? Because when people invented pens,
there was no liquid
paper. Like, this
That's
pencil you can rob.
That's right.
You can't rob this.
Yeah.
And some fucker invented liquid paper.
I'll never say never.
Yeah.
But blockchain technology, as we know it, is incredibly secure.
Okay.
Thus far, we have to believe in the technology that we do have.
But just a point that you said earlier that I thought was interesting was that finance, people who studied finance, like myself actually. So
what we're doing now.
I mean, I think if anything, the financial crisis showed that studying finance doesn't mean that you understand everything.
Yeah.
But do you think that that's a big part of the reason why like a lot of bosses of big banks and like JP Morgan and all are coming down on Bitcoin?
If you think of the number of times, so my mom sends me articles like every second day. She sends me snapshots of articles about Bitcoin, and half of them are doomsday articles about it's a bubble, it's the next tulip craze, and if you look at a lot of the people who are the doomsday naysayers of Bitcoin, you look at who they are. One of the most important things is who is this person, and it will be Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan. It's all the big banks. It's everyone who's got something to lose. You then have to start to wonder what's the private Bitcoin wallet of Jamie Dimon? Do you think he hasn't gotten onto it himself? He's not an idiot.
So you guys are like sticking it to the man.
So we like to think that's the whole purpose of this entire revolution. It was born from a dissatisfaction with existing financial markets, as demonstrated from the global financial crisis.
When was the paper by what's the guy's name?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
When was it published?
I should know this. I'd say it's about 2008, 2009.
Yeah, I think I heard it was around the time of the financial crisis.
It stems from that dissatisfaction.
That's almost like a TV show, man. Like, have you watched Mr. Robot before?
I haven't seen Mr. Robot.
Have you watched You've watched it?
Yeah, a bit,
so it deals with something about this group of hackers who want to like fuck the system and bring it all down. But I guess this is a step further because it's almost like bringing down the old system and coming up with a new system.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a movement called which cryptocurrency revolution fits into, the ANCAP movement, the anarchic capitalist movement. Which sounds, apart from sounding really cool and be a great name for like a heavy metal band, it combines two things which you don't normally combine, like anarchists and capitalists are not necessarily two mutually beneficial entities in the conventional sense, but in this sense it certainly is. It's about sort of deploying an anarchic paradigm to capitalism, almost breaking it down and then recreating it from the ground up.
Yeah, because whenever people want to break things down, I mean, it's nice because there are always problems with the incumbent system. But if people just want to break it down, that's kind of fucked up, right? That they don't propose anything else. So it's like, this is like the cooler version of constructive feedback.
It is the cooler version of constructive
Bitcoin
feedback.
is constructive feedback.
It is constructive feedback, yeah.
But so right now, I mean, what's interesting about what you're saying to me is that you're also pointing out the flaws of Bitcoin in the sense like certain transactions take longer than usual. So there is an so-called exuberance around like people jumping in and buying Bitcoin and not really understanding it. I mean, do you think that's a wise thing for people?
Oh no, I worry about it. So let's even consider what's happened in the market recently, right? Bitcoin was trading at about 10,000 USD, and it went up very rapidly in the space of a couple of weeks. It almost doubled.
Yeah.
In one sense, it was good for business because everyone was jumping on board. I didn't like it. I got really concerned because there's one thing about people who understand the technology, who understand the system, and are going into it because of that, for that reason. It's something completely different when you're people who are just jumping, like you said, on the bandwagon, just solely because there's money to be made. The problem with that is that those people who are just jumping on it just purely for the money and don't understand the system, is that with the slightest tremor and they'll jump out. The slightest tremor and they'll jump out. And when they jump out, their fellow comrades jumped on for the same reason, will jump out with them, and will cause a massive dip in the price. And then that will be the crash, and that will be the bubble has burst. And it's the same people who jumped on for the wrong reasons, would get out for the wrong reasons, and they're the same people who then look back and go, see, I told you so. It wasn't the problem with the technology, it wasn't the problem with the market, it wasn't the problem with the currency itself. The problem, as is often the case, is people.
Yeah, but I mean, that's essentially I mean, like in general, stock market behavior, as much as you can put research about it, a lot of it is psychological as well.
Without a doubt, yeah.
So is this something that you almost see as inevitable, much like the internet bubble? You know, it popped, but slowly the internet has so much influence.
Yeah.
Is Bitcoin going down a similar path?
I think so. Although it's doing that with a lot more up and downs and a lot more volatility, and that's unfortunate. That is the way it is, because it's become so much in the mainstream in a lot of ways. Access to the market is still difficult. People still don't know how to get on board. But at least knowledge about the fact that there's money to be made has become very mainstream. And it's that crucial knowledge inequality that I know there's money to be made. I don't understand anything about it, but I know there's money to be made. That gap, that knowledge disparity is, I think, what makes it dangerous and leads to a lot of this volatility.
But so how much do you actually need to be, a savvy so-called investor?
How much do you need to know?
Yeah, like after what we discussed today, does that mean that we're ready to?
Yeah, can we go tell our friends like, hey, fuck you all, you don't know
I understand cryptocurrency,
I know Bitcoin.
blockchain motherfuckers.
Yeah, you can get t-shirts made.
Exactly.
And then start a boy band.
Yeah, that's what our teammates are doing outside, just listening in and
blockchain motherfuckers.
Anarchist capitalism and cap.
You know more than you did before, and that's already something.
Okay.
I knock my head against the wall. I know more than before. Like, how much more do we
in
know?
In an ideal world, like in an ideal world, how much should people know and so that they're ready for it?
Don't invest in something that you don't understand, and so if you are throwing money into a currency that you've never heard of, you don't understand the underlying value proposition behind it. A friend comes to you and says, "Oh, you should invest in EOS." Why? Because I made this much of it, and you're going into it, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons. But if you understand the value proposition behind it, and you go, I think that will have a good case. There's a good case for this to exist in the future. I understand the value proposition behind it. I think about what the future would look like, and I think that this will fit quite seamlessly and well into the future. Then you're getting into it because you see that as your way of getting a slice of what is in the future. Which is quite different from, I see this as a means to make a very quick buck. And if you can justify to yourself that that's the reason why you're getting into it, apart from the natural cognitive dissonance that we will all use to justify why we want to make a quick buck, if you can truly justify to yourself that that's why you think this is a good investment, then it's a good investment.
So going back to something you said earlier about how if I think a Bitcoin is worth 14 goats, and everyone thinks it's worth 14 goats, that's what the value is, right?
Yeah.
So, but then what if, so assuming there were like maybe 15 million Bitcoin in circulation now, there's a value right now is what, like 15,000 US?
15,000-ish,
right?
yeah.
So assuming in future when it is a full-on currency, and what would cause the value to go down or up? Like people's perception of what a Bitcoin is worth?
Yeah. People willing to pay more.
But how would...
Who's describing that $15,000?
Yeah.
So there are world markets. There are exchanges on which people are exchanging Bitcoin for fiat currency.
Okay.
And that's essentially where this value is decided. In that way, it's not too different to the stock markets in terms of when people start to sell.
Yeah.
They will. So assuming you have a stock which is worth $3 and you decide this is not going to cut it, I want to sell. If you put it for $3.10, then you may leave it there for a week and no one will buy it, and you cut the price down, you cut the price down, you cut the price down, you go, actually, I'm going to put it for $2.98, and then someone buys it. And so then the last sale price becomes $2.98. And then someone else goes, oh shit, it's $2.98. I'll put mine up for $2.96, and then it gets sold. And then it drops lower and lower and lower. And it's that's the kind of thing that makes the price go down. That's exactly the same for the cryptocurrency market as well.
But when you say stocks, stocks are shares of a company, and when a company does well, the stock prices go up and down. So I'm probably going to ask this a lot because as much as you say like the one big argument people say is Bitcoin is not based in anything that's quantifiable or real. I'm still more along the lines of that. So
that's true. It's not quantified. It's not backed by a company's reserves, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
And
or
it isn't.
Company's performance.
Yes,
or something.
exactly.
So okay, let's say in future when fiat currencies are obsolete, now I think people can still put a placed on the value of a Bitcoin because there's a fiat currency anchor.
Yeah.
This equals 15,000 US. Assuming you take away all fiat currencies, Bitcoin philosophically should still be able to function, right?
Yep.
So in that instance, what is the value of a Bitcoin? Or is everyone open to their own interpretation?
So how about the value of your currency at the moment?
Yeah.
Which isn't backed by a company's reserves, a company's assets.
Yeah.
What determines the value of that?
The government. And
Exactly.
people's
what people
and
are
people's
willing.
perception.
And
That's what we're coming
people-
down to. So take the government side out of it, take the bank side out of it, and leave it as solely as what people are willing to pay. It becomes a relatively closed loop system in terms of, or if assuming all of the value, which I don't think will ever truly be the case, but let's just take for argument's sake that all of the value has now been put into this closed loop cryptocurrency system.
Yeah.
Then the transactions of value will be between different cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
The total amount of value will stay the same, but it will start to be exchanged between different cryptocurrencies depending on which one sees more value.
So in that case, because now one thing that the current markets can do is if the currencies are sliding, the government can inflate or deflate the currency, right? So in future, let's say one guy buys up all Bitcoin, because am I right to say that the value of a Bitcoin also has something to do with the scarcity of it,
Yes,
right? So
almost
if
entirely.
some guy manages to buy like 14.999 million of all the 15 million Bitcoin, and there's one Bitcoin left.
Yep.
And if it's based on how that can function in a network, with that one Bitcoin, he can't really do much.
Yeah.
So does the value of that Bitcoin drop a lot?
Well, depends how you actually conversely.
Yeah.
The value of the Bitcoin will increase immensely because that one Bitcoin will become incredibly rare.
Okay.
That's all there is to fight about. However, so its use as a value store will increase because really there's only one Bitcoin left in transaction that the entire world is fighting over in this dystopian reality. However, its use as a currency, as a transactable currency, will go down dramatically because a currency is determined by its functionality, by how much it's used.
Also, it's more of a stored value.
So I see Bitcoin. We keep using the term Bitcoin and cryptocurrency interchangeably.
Yeah.
And I haven't the purists. I'll get slaughtered after this by the purists for doing this, but for the purposes of lay conversation, it's probably easier. But if you're talking about Bitcoin in itself, its main value proposition in the future is as a value store, not as a currency. Think of it as a replacement for gold.
Okay.
Gold. Why is gold valuable?
Because it's scarce.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why it has its value. People say, oh, but gold it's pretty and it's used in jewelry, and gold isn't valuable because it's used in jewelry. Gold is used in jewelry because it's valuable.
Yeah.
Because all our aunties want to show off when they go to the wedding, right?
Yeah.
That's why gold is valuable.
Yeah.
And until now, we haven't had anything else that's been a limited resource in the same way. Gold is the only thing we've had all this while, which is the closest thing we have to a purely limited resource. Gold isn't practical though in a lot of ways. It's not transactable, it's not portable, we can't carry it around, you can't divide it, you can't walk around with a gold block and start shaving off bits of it to pay for things. Whereas now all of a sudden we have the first thing, which is truly a limited resource, but it's coupled with the transactability, the portability of cash. I travel when I'm going through airports, and there are forms you figure out, are you carrying more than $10,000 worth of cash, worth of currency? You laugh at it because no, I'm not, but I've got $200,000 in a USB stick in your pocket. You could be, but that somehow doesn't compute on still conventional models of measuring how we're moving money. But the point is now we can, with the same value store, is coupled with all the benefits of a currency, and that's what Bitcoin promises in the future.
Oh. So I guess what you're saying is that as much as we think that money is valuable because it's backed by gold, the perception that gold is very valuable is in some way constructed artificially.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And what Bitcoin has now done is that it has managed to artificially construct value in this bunch of numbers and all that has now reached a level of gold per se.
It has, and the idea is that we'll start to replace
I guess
gold in the
that
long
makes
term.
sense, because even if you take the case of Lobsters, right?
Yeah.
Do you know the history of lobsters?
No.
In the 50s, it was actually prisoner food. Because they were always known as cockroaches of the sea.
Right, yeah.
I don't know what made it become a delicacy, but the moment people's perception changed, its value increased.
Yep.
And then I guess it is a scarce thing by nature of it being at the bottom of seas, but it was something made it become valuable.
There's a story about potatoes and how no one wanted to. I can't remember now. This is a better story if I remembered it. I can't remember which country it was or which time in history it was, where I'm going to say it's somewhere in England, where potatoes were not eaten. They were just not eaten. The farmers wouldn't farm it. It was just not considered a food of any form until there was a massive famine, and the king and his court had to decide, what are we going to do? We're like, well, there's potatoes, but no one wants to eat the damn potatoes. So the crown planted all these potato crops, and then they installed guards to guard these potato crops, and they fenced up these potato crops, and they had these guards positioned all around, but with like some strategic gaps. And so the peasants went, what is all of this? Yeah. And so they started sneaking in. They started stealing the potatoes in the middle of the night, and then potatoes became a thing that was stolen and the king's food and a delicacy. And then they started planting the potatoes.
Is that a true story?
It is a true story. Like I said, it's a better story if I remembered the story.
It's kind of like in Singapore, sometimes some stores, retail stores, when they launch products, they hire people and put them in queues. And then people are like, oh shit, what's that? It looks like good shit, you know?
And it's like abalone. I've tried abalone like 4 times in my life. I fucking hated it each time.
Hey, don't shit on abalone.
No,
man.
fuck this. Okay? Abalone tastes like wet rubber. You know those ingredients? You eat that, but for some reason it's so valuable. Yeah. Because it's a perception thing. So Bitcoin,
all the value is a perception.
Bitcoin is the modern day abalone.
Can we not say that, please?
Dude, I just got your tagline for your
please not. Don't shit all over my profession.
Like help us. We'll help you trade your abalone. Is it abalone or abalone?
Abalone.
Abalone. There we go.
Okay, so right now Bitcoin has value from just a whole bunch of factors lah. I think one thing you can argue is that when people the value has come through this very smart system of like people mining it and getting it and like. But would you say that Bitcoin would have gotten to where it was if it wasn't for its shady beginnings? Because it almost sounds like the dark web was the first thing that actually ascribed some aspect of value to a Bitcoin.
Okay, let me re-ask the question. I wouldn't say that it wouldn't have come this way if not for the dark web. In fact, if it hadn't come from the dark web, we wouldn't have a lot of problems we're having now. Because for people like me who are trying to get it more into the mainstream and trying to, there's a lot of stigma that comes with it because for a long time, Bitcoin people knew Bitcoin as that things that you buy drugs with.
Yeah,
or
that's what I knew it as.
47s.
And the things that you buy weapons with, and the things that fund terrorism. That's what they knew it. But that's because the first people to catch on to new technologies are people who are desperately looking for a way to circumvent current models.
Like porn.
Oh my god. Right? When 360 video started becoming a thing,
I think even
one of the first industries to catch on was the porn industry.
DVDs, Blu-rays, everything.
Everything, exactly.
Yeah.
And similarly, the drug industry.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to circumvent current models, whereas the rest of us are so deeply rooted in our current paradigms. We're so comfy in our plush little chairs of the present that we don't bother to think of a way to get out of this and move towards the future. There's no reason. There's no impetus for change. Whereas these industries are being forced to constantly reinvent themselves. So any new technology, they're going to be the first to jump on board. And so that's why it happened. It happened as a matter of circumstance.
That almost proves its worth.
It does.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Because I think the video format also was kind of dictated by what did the best for porn.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Man.
So just a question, because our audience sometimes views younger as well.
Yeah.
So you're saying that a finance degree wouldn't make sense for better understanding Bitcoin and everything, but then what would you need to study, or what?
I wouldn't say it won't make sense, but it does mean there's a lot of pre-existing knowledge that you have to dump.
Okay.
And a lot of pre-existing notions and misconceptions that you have to dump about things like value, like we've talked about. We need to reconceptualize the way you think of value completely to try and understand the cryptocurrency paradigm.
So for people who are working in the Bitcoin industry right now, like yourself, what kind of skills or knowledge or background do you actually require to be in it?
It's very hard to say. There's very, I can't think of one. Apart from inquisitiveness, I can't think of one particular trait that's necessary. My background is medical. I'm a doctor, and yet I've gotten into this because I was interested in it. And if I think of my office and the people who are the guys I have, my brokers, they come from very diverse backgrounds.
Well, like what kind of?
I've got another doctor who's a cosmetic physician. I've got a guy who ran his own guerrilla marketing company who sold that and is now partner with us. I've got a couple of young guys who have left halfway through their finance degrees to come and do this because they see a greater future in this. So there's quite a diverse background. I've got an actor who is sort of doing this on the side, and all it requires is inquisitiveness.
So would you say Bitcoin to the financial industry is kind of like what internet was to media, in the sense that it's a new technology that has so many potential users, but in 99 it was almost like at the cusp of it?
I was speaking yesterday to a guy who's a venture capitalist, and who he's in his late 50s, and he's lived through the internet boom. And it's not just him, there's a lot of people who say that this is the first major revolutionary change to the world as we know it since the internet. And I don't disagree. I mean, I've always believed it, but it's nice to hear this come from someone who actually lived through that change and is now seeing this as the first major change since. And it also comes at a very interesting time where there are a lot of other technologies, potentially compatible technologies, being coupled together at the same time. So the advent of AI together with cryptocurrencies and the way those two can function together in the future is both fascinating and frightening at the same time.
For me it's more frightening.
So one of the things that we have to, sorry, you want to say something?
No, go ahead.
One of the things that you always need to mention, I'm an optimist, and I have to be an optimist when it comes to cryptocurrencies because it's what I work in.
And psychiatry.
But and I always like to see the utopian future of it. And I like to think about and talk about the utopian ideal that is behind the crypto revolution. But behind that utopian ideal, there is a very strong dystopian shadow, which is very hard to ignore.
What would be the worst case scenario?
I don't know about a worst case scenario, but there are plenty of potential pitfalls and problems. So problems that have been raised, which I don't have immediate answers for, are things like governments worry about taxation, for example. How are we going to tax this? If everyone starts getting paid in Bitcoin, for example, how are we going to be able to monitor it and see where the money is going? How do we measure the flow of money well enough to be able to tax it? And from a socialist standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint, taxes to some extent are essential to ensure the well-being of the people and the common folk.
Distribution of wealth.
And this, in a true free market economy, which is sort of the epitome of the capitalist paradigm, kind of goes against the socialist paradigm, which unfortunately is something I also believe in. So there is this loggerheads there. I don't have an answer to it. I'll say this right now. I don't. I don't think that is enough of a reason yet for us to not move forward and look into this more. Because the problem with all future technologies is that we often judge it based on present paradigms, right? We judge from the time of Galileo onwards, we've judged any future idea based on our current view of the world, when we really need to judge it based on what we think a future view of the world will look like.
But I would have thought it would be counterintuitive, because the big problem with tax is where there's a lot of money that's flowing that they don't have visibility on. And from what I understand about blockchain, where you can literally see every transaction, wouldn't that help with taxation?
You can see every transaction, but you can't necessarily see who that transaction is.
So that's the thing about... So what I've heard is Bitcoin is fully anonymous, and I've also said, no, it's not anonymous, blah. So wait, can you just shed some light
on
that?
So you can see the transactions going through according to the wallet address, but you can't trace that necessarily to a person. And that's Bitcoin, but there are various other cryptocurrencies which have increasing levels of anonymity built into them.
Increasing levels of anonymity.
So there's things like Verge or Monero or Zcash all of whom have can be even more and more anonymous, and where it's almost impossible to track. Even with Bitcoin, you can in a way track back through different wallet addresses and where that came from, and if one wallet address is registered to a particular exchange, and you can establish some sort of a shadow of a track.
Yeah.
Whereas with some of the others, which depend on the anonymity, their whole purpose is anonymity, it's almost impossible to.
So that means now in the mad rush for cryptocurrencies, I mean, I'm hearing new cryptocurrencies every day, and they all sound more like superheroes than currencies.
Yeah, the names are a bit odd, man.
So everyone's just trying to differentiate?
They're all entirely different. Each cryptocurrency has its own particular value.
But they also have the same elements of like mining and
They are each are slightly different. Each are different. Each of them is based on a slightly different underlying technology.
Okay.
But and these are subtle variations. They're probably too technical for this point. But the general principle is the same.
So
decentralized.
Do you almost see a risk in, because this stuff? I mean, even like I would consider myself relatively well read, and I had no idea about Bitcoin before this.
Yeah.
But do you almost see like there's a danger of kind of like an information elitism where people who know about Bitcoin can fuck over people who don't?
Not just fuck over people who don't, but the knowledge gap will lead to the future economic gap.
Yeah.
So people, early investors, early movers in the game. So people who got into Bitcoin when it was $100 a coin and bought up large amounts then will become, or potentially will become, the multi-millionaires of the future.
Yeah.
And not necessarily the people who are wealthy now, who haven't necessarily gotten onto this just because they haven't known.
Yeah.
Because there's a knowledge gap, will fall behind. And some people will be up in arms about, that's unfair, that's not fair, this is my hard-earned money. Well, it wasn't necessarily your hard-earned money if it came generationally. Anyway, those are separate arguments. But that there is that argument to be made, that there is the knowledge gap, which leads to an economic gap.
And I mean, even aside from knowledge gap, there's like right now, I think one big thing is there's a global movement to get internet to everyone, right?
Yeah.
But money, technically, you can still argue can reach everyone because it's like a physical thing. But aside from knowledge gap, where you assume two people who have access to the same resources, one knows about Bitcoin, one doesn't know. What about the whole group of people who don't even have access to even buy a Bitcoin? They are getting further left behind.
Okay. I will flip that one for you.
Okay.
And I'll say that one of the regions where I really see cryptocurrencies having great value is in the developing world.
Oh yeah, actually that makes sense, because politically those, I mean, not to say all developing countries, a lot of countries have.
Yeah, you don't want to rely on the bank or the government for value, right?
If you're in Venezuela, if you're in Zimbabwe, why would you take payment in your own currency?
That is true.
But the other main argument is, so consider farmer Mbuktu in Tanzania, who has his maize crops, and there's no way he can get a credit line to be able to sell to the high fructose corn syrup manufacturers in Detroit. No way. There's no way he's going to be able to get that access. He can't get a credit line. He can't get access. No bank's going to give him a loan. How the heck is he ever going to transact this? Never happen. If he's got a mobile phone, he's got a smartphone, instantly he has direct access to a manufacturer in Detroit. He doesn't need a bank. He doesn't need a credit line.
That is true.
And automatically that barrier is just reduced dramatically. I see the developing world as being one of the big future markets, and they haven't even caught on. So
they haven't?
No. If you consider how many people there are in the developing world versus the developed world, we're talking about 1 to 6 discrepancy. And once the developing world really starts to catch on to the cryptocurrency wave, the potential value increase is enormous.
Is there any information on what people are actually using Bitcoin to buy right now, like most people or most of the transactions?
Cocaine. This is again one of the arguments against Bitcoin and stuff, but no one's using it. No one's using it. If we keep saying, well, it's got no purpose because no one's using it, then that argument sort of falls over because no one is using it yet. Yeah. But there will be a point that will come where there's a critical mass that is reached of people who are starting to invest in it and who own it. And then the proprietors will want to cash in on this. That's already starting to happen. In Australia, there are Bitcoin ATMs. There are news agents that are starting to accept Bitcoin and sell Bitcoin. And that is a wave that is slowly gathering momentum, and it will increase. Japan, for example, is one of the market leaders in this, and where you can transact with cryptocurrencies all over the place. But the rest of the world hasn't really caught on. Once that critical mass is reached, then it's one of those rolling stone.
I mean, but were you joking that it's mostly used to buy drugs right now, or is that
no, I think that time has passed. That was the case for a very long time.
Okay.
That has definitely passed. But again, Bitcoin. Okay, we shouldn't just use the word Bitcoin, because I don't see Bitcoin as being the major transaction tool. There will be others. Yeah.
So I guess there's like every new technology, right? Like even Snapchat, it took sexting in high schools for it to push it to mainstream.
Yeah. I still don't see what it's used for.
I have no fucking idea. We've tried. There was the first.
Hey, come back!
What was that for? And like even the interface, I fucking don't understand it. There was
You're using your present paradigms to judge something from the future.
Fuck you! When we had our first intern, right? She sat down and tried to teach both of us how to use Snapchat, and I tried it. Then I was like, fucking. At least Insta Stories, right? You just press a button, and it's so much easier. Yeah, I mean, please, we are social media influencers.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
We have to use it.
You're showing your age, man. You're showing your age. You don't understand this shit.
Yeah, you're just basing your shit on previous paragraphs of photos and all this shit. No, speaking of which, okay, I need to digress a bit because this app has blown my mind. Have you heard of Kodak?
No.
Oh, we talked about this in the previous podcast as well. It just blows my mind because it's this app where the interface of taking the photo is like the back of a Kodak camera, and you look through a viewfinder. You only can take 36 photos, and you have to wait 3 days for the photo.
Oh wow! Nice.
Yeah, and they sell it for like $1, and it's number one in I don't know
Korea.
how many countries.
And you put it in film?
Big in Korea.
No, you get it on your deliver to your phone.
Deliver to your phone.
But it looks like a
magical
photo with the little yellow.
Yeah.
So it's almost like blockchain is pushing us forward, but there's this whole demand for things that are taking us back, which is a, I guess it's a romantic thing. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Okay, so going back to Bitcoin. So I sometimes I hear, so full disclosure, I have bought a bit of Bitcoin in Coinbase, and even using the interface. Okay, first of all, I know you can't buy a lot at one time because I'm guessing it's a whole part of the whole mining process. But the storage of Bitcoin, right? What I understand is you have Coinbase or whatever online wallet, is that what it's called? You buy the Bitcoin there, but then I hear people storing Bitcoin in their hard drives and all that.
Yeah.
What?
Okay. Firstly, let's start with the purchasing.
Yeah.
Yes, the barrier to entry is so high because most people who've heard of it. Okay, you take the whole population and let's say, let's throw a figure at. How many people what percentage do you think have heard of Bitcoin?
Heard of it as in just.
So should we even say 20%?
Yeah, heard of. I think
say maybe 20%. Yeah. Of those 20%, how many percent know? How many percent of people who've heard of Bitcoin know how to purchase a Bitcoin? 1% of that. Yeah. How do you even start? Can I go to a bank and do it? Can I go to? No one knows, and the barrier to entry is really, really high. This is the big knowledge gap. Even people who've heard about it don't know how to go and buy it. So yes, you can buy it in an exchange. It's a complicated process.
So Coinbase is an exchange.
It's an exchange.
Okay.
And you can buy it in an exchange, but you need to get registered with an exchange.
Yeah.
Then you need to get ID verified at the exchange. Then you need to get your money onto an exchange. Then if you want to buy a slightly larger volume, you need to get that level of verification increased so you can buy slightly larger volumes. It can take a week. It can take longer than a week.
Yeah.
And a week in cryptocurrency terms is a lifetime considering how quickly the price goes up. As of yesterday, 4 of the major exchanges in the world are no longer accepting new registrations because they just can't cope with the demand.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. Which is where, and this is a shameless plug,
Caleb and Brown.
Can I pull out a card? Show it to the camera.
Wait, so you need what? You need, I mean, do you need $15,000 US dollars?
Nah,
to
you can buy it
jump on
any volume.
Oh, any volume.
Yes.
And you get a
Go in
fraction.
here.
You get a fraction of a Bitcoin.
This podcast is sponsored by Caleb
and Brown.
Actually, the sponsor not yet, soon to be sponsored.
Soon to be sponsored.
That's the only reason we got you on, dude.
Swear, what's that called? Indian poker?
Oh yeah.
Indian poker.
Right.
Yeah.
Can you see it? So it's not a good look, is it? Now stop. That's why. So what we run is a brokerage, and think of it as like an old school brokerage model where every one of our clients gets a personalized broker.
Yeah.
Where you can call anytime and we literally pick up the phone and say, I want $50,000 worth of EOS. I want $80,000 worth of IO.
But you need to be transacting on those amounts, lah. If I want like $20 of Bitcoin.
So what we exist is to cover, so it's to cure two of the problems that you talked about. So the first was the access issues.
Yeah.
How do I get on? And the second thing is buying volumes, large volumes.
Yeah. Buying
small volumes on an exchange is fine. But the moment you want to start to buy large volumes.
What's large volume?
So, well, we work from 10,000 upwards.
Okay.
Our average buy is about $50,000 and we do individual transactions up to about $2 million.
Okay.
And when you're starting to buy large volumes, it's impossible to buy it on an exchange. Because if you want to go out onto an exchange and you start flooding it with money, you're going to pump the price up of your own purchase by so much. You're going to buy $200,000 worth. By the time you bought the $200,000 worth, you've already artificially pumped the price up so much.
Because you can only buy in small blocks, and every block...
It depends on who's selling it at what price. So it's an exchange, it's a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
So people are trying to sell and they're pegged at different values. And if someone comes in and tries to automatically buy up a whole bunch, you're going to go so far down the order book that by the time you got to your last buy, it's so much higher than the price that your first buy, your first dollar bought with.
Yeah.
Whereas we allow people to buy large volumes at a single spot price.
Yeah.
So it's just a single spot, what the current market rate is, the average of the various exchanges.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Okay.
Wait, so a question. So when you bought your Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
Do you count how much you have in terms of amount of Bitcoin, or just I have like $500 or $1,000
No, so what happens
value?
is I have to transfer money from my PayPal to that platform, and then I converted X amount of USD into Bitcoin. So I do have.
So you do have a number of how much
you
Bitcoin you have.
Yeah.
Even a fraction of a Bitcoin.
Yeah, and you can buy any fraction of.
To buy one Bitcoin now is 3,000.
That's
exactly.
like wow.
And then you get to the point of that's brokerage. That's why.
Okay.
That's why we exist.
Yeah.
As far as we know it, we're the only ones in Australia.
Damn.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. See lah, fucking set out. Other countries don't want to set out in Singapore. Brain drain really.
I had four requests for a bank account so far turned down in Singapore.
Are you serious?
Yep.
Wow.
Why?
That is completely typical.
Wait, but your citizenship is
Singaporean.
Singaporean.
He did NS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some more, okay, fun fact. This is because I know you that long. He is Singapore's second test tube baby.
A test tube baby.
Yeah. Singapore's second test tube baby.
Thank you,
Wow.
Haresh. This is really relevant to the current
Big plug.
conversation.
I mean, that just made Caleb and Brown even cooler, man.
True. Yeah.
Second test
No,
tube
you're like a baby from the future working on a future technology.
Boom!
Wow. It's like, that's got to be in your profile, management.
That should be the
profile.
same.
Right from birth, he was changing
Yeah, he was
paradigms.
changing paradigms.
You
Fuck
were
your
born
present
in your
paradigms.
mom's uterus.
Fuck your present paradigms, man.
I was not born in a test tube, Haresh. I didn't break out of a test tube like glass shattering. You
No,
see the
you
scar? You see the scar?
You were conceived in a test tube and then put into your mom's uterus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? So, okay, you were, other people, I was conceived in my mom's uterus. You were conceived outside your mom's
Do
uterus.
you really want to talk about your conception?
No, but almost it's so
Poetic, it's
poetic
poetic.
because you saw the outside world first.
Yeah.
Granted, you were just 2 cells at that point in time.
Yeah.
And then you went back in
Yeah.
and like,
And then I've come back out.
Yeah, exactly.
He's bringing his vision of the future to the rest of us.
Can I get a cake
Mortals.
now?
Dude, you're like
Can I please get a cake?
It's like Scientology, like the you know that.
C and B on my cake. I love this.
Exactly.
This is good. It's a good idea.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, do you have test tube baby friends?
No.
There's
It's
no
a
Facebook group or
Facebook.
WhatsApp group or something.
Test tube babies anonymous.
Test tube babies. Damn. Man.
To all my comrades out there.
Don't you don't have a symbol or something? Like,
House
okay.
No.
Yeah. So going back, okay, you answered the question about the brokerage versus
Yeah.
the exchange. Then the hard disk thing.
Yes, the hard disk thing. So
Yeah.
storage is the other big issue. So there are multiple ways in which you can store your cryptocurrency because it's all digital, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there's a spectrum of ease of accessibility versus security, and the two are on opposing ends of the spectrum.
It's like naked pictures.
Correct.
Am I right to say, if you put your naked pictures in the cloud,
Correct.
it's easier.
It's easy to
Yeah,
access,
but
but it can be hacked.
Yeah.
Whereas if you print them out and then you put them in a safe and you bury it under the ground, then it's really hard to get at. Every time you want to look at it, you got to go on dig,
but no one
whatever,
will
and then by
find
which
it.
time you can't be fucking bothered anymore. But you can't get to it. And so similarly, on the same spectrum, you have online wallets. So where you're on an exchange. Actually, there's online wallets, and then you can actually store it on the exchange itself.
Okay.
If you're storing it on the exchange itself, the risk of getting hacked is huge.
Yeah.
Because for a hacker to want to hack your individual wallet that contains 0.00024 of a Bitcoin, it's not really worth the effort. But for him to, if he's going to hack an exchange which has millions and millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, and if you can hack it and get access to it, that makes a lot of sense. And that has happened.
That has
There's a
happened.
big GDAX hack. Sorry, the GDAX hack. Sorry, the Mt. Gox hack, which is pretty big. So online exchange, easy to access, easy to trade, but security is an issue. Then you have mobile wallets, so you can have a wallet on your phone. I'll go on my phone, but it's charging out there. So it's a mobile wallet. Again, access quite easy, but if you lose your phone, then potentially it's all lost. There are security passcodes and whatever that enable you to recover it, but it's still, the coins can be lost quite easily. You can have desktop wallets, so it's stored on your desktop hard drive, but then you run the risk of what if your hard drive gets destroyed.
Yeah.
Or I'm sure you've heard the story recently of the guy who was mining Bitcoin back in the day, and then decided it wasn't really worth very much, and then his hard drive got chucked out, and then and he's now, the last thing he's done is gotten permits to hire trawlers and dig up an entire landfill.
Because the amount of Bitcoin is like 140 million or something.
Yeah. I'd do it. I'd be on my hands and knees trawling through that myself. Yeah.
So does it mean there are a lot of new millionaires that have come out in the last
Most definitely,
2 or 3 years?
Yeah. Can you imagine?
But I mean, the things I actually haven't heard that many stories of, like even in Singapore or anywhere.
I
people
saw one
coming out.
19-year-old guy in New York, because that was a Vice kind of a short clip. But yeah, Singapore I haven't heard.
Yeah, let me just finish this last bit about it, and I'll tell you why you don't see that.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the most secure form of storage is what you were talking about, is called cold storage.
Okay.
So a cold storage device called cold storage because it has never been online. So the device is called a tracer or a ledger. They have never ever been online. They're completely offline, so there's no way for them to be hacked. And the only time they go online is very briefly when they get plugged in, when you transfer something across, and then they're plugged out. And even that is done through such a complicated series of encryption. That is a barrier because most people find that quite hard to manipulate. It's actually not that difficult if you follow the instructions step by step.
Yeah.
But it's still hard to access. And for example, my tracer is not, I don't travel with my tracer. That's stuck back there. If I want to access my coins now, that is a problem. An additional level of security to this is that if my tracer gets stolen, I can still recover it using what they call a security phrase. So it's a phrase of randomly generated words, which are assigned to you when you register your tracer, and that is something you keep very securely because you can recover it just using that, even if you don't actually have the device with you.
Okay.
Now, that phrase is something you keep very separate from the tracer itself because you don't want anyone to have access to both of the two at the same time because they can get into your tracer. Now, the various devices that have been created to maintain the security of that passphrase. I'm not going to tell you where my passphrase is, but there's devices there's one called a crypto steel, which is, think of like military specification steel, on which you can imprint your passcode and then actually bury it under the ground in a backyard somewhere. So it's literally burying your gold.
Shit.
Wow.
And wait, so that is the passphrase that could help you retrieve your tracer. And how do you spell that tracer thing?
Trezor.
Trezor.
Tracer.
Tracer or ledger.
So okay, let's say using the analogy of a picture again. A picture when you print out, you have that image there. It can be there's something, a physical form. Bitcoin, what is it that you're putting into your hard drive?
It's the series of numbers.
And that is the code for all the previous
ledger.
transactions?
Yeah.
Oh, so that means like what you said, when you want to transact, you need to be connected online because it needs to add the next block to the chain.
Correct.
Oh.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and there's something in that series of numbers that's matched to your wallet account.
Yeah, so this becomes again complicated. There's something called a private key. So your wallet has a private key and a public key.
Okay.
And it's got to be the transaction needs to be signed by a combination of the two for it to be authenticated.
It's like nuclear. You got two keys.
Yeah, sort of. But then you keep your private key and you only send off your public key. And then on the other side, that's verified by that other person or whoever's verifying the transaction, identifying your public key as going to that public key, and that is matched with the other person's private key.
Oh shit! Okay.
Too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, something you were talking about, the physical presence of Bitcoin, right? And going back to that example of the Kodak thing.
Yeah.
What if someone one day says, "Oh, let's make it simpler for everyone. Let's actual print like paper money that is worth like quarter of a Bitcoin or something like that."
And This is an interesting point because on one hand you could say, well, that goes against the entire purpose of having a digital currency, but actually no. The other sort of aligned argument is like, well, what if we all just got rid of money, of paper money, and went completely contact and digital? Like we only use credit cards. Isn't that the same thing? Whereas really the underlying philosophy is about the decentralization and not about the digitalization as much. So while going with our current banking model to a completely digital platform is got nothing to do with the cryptocurrency revolution, whereas what you're suggesting, which is going towards a decentralized economy and all of these things, but actually printing out the Bitcoin is clunky, but actually is in line with the underlying message of
But that kind of fucks up the
cryptocurrencies.
blockchain, right? Because now you could be going to lunch and be like, hey, Terence, give me one.
Well, something by clunky, because then he'll have to give that to you, and then you'll have to go and register that on it.
Okay,
But the underlying philosophy would be the same.
Because like what we were talking about just now, where Bitcoin, if you see it as a stored value, it's almost replacing gold. Right?
It is entirely about replacing gold.
Yeah.
It is going to be the new gold. It's not going to be a new currency. It is to be a new gold as a value store.
I see.
Interesting.
And that sort of leads slightly. So why do we not see that many Bitcoin millionaires?
Yeah.
Two reasons. Hold on. Can I take my clothes off?
Oh yeah.
wait. Just say your jacket, dude. Who the fuck asked that question?
Do you want some water?
Whoa. Okay, so we'll get back to Terence's earlier question and just said I'd come back to, which is, what was it exactly? Why is it we don't see...
Yeah, in public you don't hear...
Why you don't hear about... You heard about a lot of the .com millionaires. Why have you not heard of any Bitcoin millionaires really in that way?
Yeah.
Mainly because, for one, there's a certain respect for the anonymity that is associated with cryptocurrency money to an extent. But the main reason is that most of the Bitcoin millionaires are Bitcoin or cryptocurrency millionaires are cryptocurrency virtual millionaires in that no one's cashing out.
Oh, I see.
I haven't sold a thing in the entire time that since I've been investing. I haven't sold anything. And some would say that's perhaps not wise because I could have cashed out a little bit at its peak and then waited for the drop and then you could go back and forth a little bit. But I haven't sold anything because I see that eventually the value is going to be so much higher.
Really?
Yeah. We are nowhere even close to tickling the tip of the iceberg attached to the glacier.
Really?
Nowhere close. And that's why all these guys the whales as we call them, who have got enormous amounts, enormous reserve, it's all virtual millionaires because they're all holding on to it. Why would you sell?
Huh. That's interesting.
It is interesting.
Is that...
Which, in a way, which should restore the faith. As much as you want to say it's a bubble, what about all the big guys? All the guys who own a lot of the Bitcoin and a lot of the cryptocurrencies and who are heavily invested in this, if they're not cashing out, why are they not cashing out? Get worried when they're cashing out.
But at the same time, during the internet boom, I'm sure there were a lot of big VCs and all investing in a bunch of things, and they got fucked over, right?
That is true.
Right. So I think, I have heard. Is there a term for people who are holding on to their Bitcoin? What's it called?
The whales, or this term hodl.
What's that? What's that hodl thing?
It basically means you're
It stands for something, right?
Yeah.
What does it stand for?
Can you pause this for a second?
No, we can look it up. The projector.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Hodl.
Yeah.
How do you spell?
DL.
HODL.
Hodl meaning.
What is hodl?
This is good. I haven't had Toblerone in ages.
Hold on for dear life, I think.
Hold on for dear life.
Yeah, hold
Oh,
on
that's
for
cute.
dear. So you're a hodler.
Which is a pun on the fact that you're holding.
Yeah. So you're a hodler.
As most of us are.
Damn.
It's all virtual money.
Virtual money.
Or virtual value that I hold on to.
Okay. So you mentioned way back at the start this term ICO, right?
Yeah.
What is ICO?
Okay. So the problem with Toblerone, this shit gets stuck in your teeth.
Oh, you should try Dame.
yeah.
Like
Yeah, that's
That's
one.
bad.
Dame
Here's
gives
another
toffee-
question. Why are duty-free shops always chock-a-block full of Toblerone?
I don't know.
What the hell is with Toblerone and duty-free shops? Why do you need? Why are there so much taxes on Toblerone? Every time I go to an airport, I'm like, what's with all the Toblerone? Like massive bars.
Maybe there is a lot of tax on it.
Huge triangles
true.
that big. Fucking Giza is sitting in the duty-free shops. Why is there so much Toblerone?
Anyway. Which one did you get? The milk, dark or white?
Milk.
Milk. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Where were we? ICOs.
Yes.
ICOs stand for initial coin offering. It is the cryptocurrency version of IPOs,
Okay.
initial public offerings. So when a company is going public, they have an IPO, they sell shares, and they take money in and they give shares out to the investors. ICOs are similar, except they take in cryptocurrency in the form of, the various ones that are used, but the most commonly used cryptocurrency is Ethereum, the most commonly used one for ICO funding. And in return, their investors get tokens.
That means
They're called tokens.
like units of that currency.
No, not units of the initial currency that came in. Units
Or
of
the new currency.
tokens of the
ICO.
new ICO or what the new coin. It's the initial coin offering, right? So I'm
Yeah.
offering you back this coin, and that is a means of tokenization. So tokenization is a term in itself, which is the splitting up of a single entity into multiple little digital tokens.
And a digital token of that new currency is like a unit of that.
It's a unit of that company
Yeah.
and a unit of the total value that is in that company.
That company or that new currency? Or are they the same thing?
The same thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And which is can now be transacted. So
Okay.
other people can then buy in. So let's say there's a new company that's releasing an X token. It's a token that's their tokenization of their company, and you want to buy into it. You put in some value, you get a certain amount of these X tokens. You can then sell that X token on to someone else as that company's value increases, or as people's perception of the value of the company increases. That X token becomes worth more and more and more.
So it's almost like getting a critical mass to start with. It's
Yeah.
like am I right to say it's like the cryptocurrency version of Kickstarter kind of thing?
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah.
Right, where you have X amount of value and you need to get people to contribute that
Initially.
amount of initial.
Yeah.
It's through. You said it's through Ethereum.
Well, Ethereum is one of the which is the cryptocurrency that is most used to fund this.
To fund it, but why not just fiat currency straight up?
Because the whole point is to work in a cryptocurrency paradigm.
Oh,
So it's a conversion, not converting fiat to this. You're within the crypto.
oh, I see. So you go from fiat to Ethereum, how do you pronounce it?
Ethereum.
Ethereum to put you into that paradigm, and then
Yeah.
within that paradigm,
You're transacting
you're
within.
transacting.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's what ICOs are, and they're very exciting because they automatically give direct access from people with an idea.
Yeah.
And they give them access to funds. So you're right, in a way, it is like a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Gives them direct access to people who want to give them money for this. The problem with it is that there are a lot of scam ICOs around.
Yeah, sounds like.
And a lot of ICOs have nothing more, they don't even have a working model, they have nothing more than a white paper. And that's tricky when you have, the ICOs released recently $30 million in 30 minutes. That's how much they've raised.
What?
Within 30 minutes of release.
What?
$30 million in 30 minutes based on a white paper.
So they
Wow.
got $30 million worth of Ethereum coming to them from just people who want to jump on a bandwagon. Oh, there's this coin called Dogecoin, right? Based on the dog.
Dogecoin.
Well, what the? So
Yeah.
that also would have gone through. So from what I understand, Dogecoin is something that was created as a joke.
Yeah.
It's like an alternative cryptocurrency, but then now it's valued. I don't know how many fucking $1 million.
Wait, so there was under ICO or something.
Yeah, would that have gone through an ICO?
Right. I shouldn't know. I
It's
can't
the
remember
nougat.
the history of.
It's the nougat.
Yeah. But actually, so I mean, I'm a step behind you in understanding it. So if I have let's say I'm trying to create a lamp or something like that I think is going to revolutionize the lamp industry, and I obviously I can't go for an IPO, right? Because you're starting a new company, or I find it hard to find funds from traditional investors.
Yeah.
So you're saying that I could go and have an ICO?
You could, but then the question will be asked: what advantage is there?
Yeah.
Is it an ICO for the sake of an ICO, or is there a particular advantage for this being tokenized?
Okay.
So you first need to understand the idea of tokenization. Tokenization I find fascinating and a great way of moving into the future. You can tokenize anything. You can tokenize property, for example. So instead of one person buying a house, you almost form a cooperative. And so you have one house, which you split up into multiple tokens, and those tokens are sold off to whoever wants to purchase these tokens, and each that means they own a share of the house.
That's kind of like a REIT, right?
It is, but it becomes so much more transactable, and it's so much easier to exchange, because you can just exchange this as you would. You can exchange it from one cryptocurrency to buy into to purchase this, and then that token then can be passed around, and the contracts become so much easier. You don't have to have these complex contracts of where this is passed, who owns this part of this house, lawyers' fees, all of that's taken out of the equation, because all you have is these, effectively, this is the term smart contracts, because the contract's already been written in to the token, and then wherever that token goes, because it can be tracked infinitely along the blockchain, wherever that token goes, the value will follow.
I see.
So that's tokenization. And so if there is some benefit from tokenization, then the ICO makes sense. Your lamp ICO makes no sense from a tokenization point of view, because it doesn't add anything at all. I'll give you an example of an ICO. So one of the reasons I'm here in Singapore is working with an ICO that's really hitting the market right about now. They're called Electrify. I don't know if you've heard about them. There was an article about them 2 days ago. Very exciting. Like, I've shied away from ICOs for a very long time, mainly because there's so many of these scam ICOs and they scare the crap out of me. And I don't want to stake my professional reputation on something that is going to be pretty dodge. But this one's actually really interesting. So the model is that there's Singapore's energy market, and I hope I'm not explaining this in a poor manner. Singapore's energy market at the moment is very much a monopoly by Singapore Power. You buy your power from Singapore Power. That's it. There are other energy retailers out there, wholesalers. Singapore Power buys from them and then sells to...
they commodify it.
Yeah, they sell to at retail rates. They buy at wholesale, they sell at retail.
Yeah.
Now, Singapore is moving towards a liberalized energy market, as a lot of the rest of the world is, where it isn't a monopoly and individual retailers can now sell to individual consumers. What Electrify is seeking to do is essentially create an online marketplace where they're able to match up all these individual retailers with all these individual consumers. So you no longer need to buy from Singapore Power. You can get onto the Electrify marketplace, and you can buy your energy directly from wholesalers at wholesale prices, without having to go through, without having to look at like individual contracts. You don't have to approach multiple different individual retailers and go, how much do you cost? How much do you cost? How much do you cost? It's an online marketplace that just matches up retailers and consumers.
Well, why does that require a cryptocurrency? It sounds like it could be done right now with just a website.
Not necessarily, because the total amount of energy that is being produced by the wholesalers, that all gets fed into this marketplace, split up into tokens, and that gets easily then sent out to people who are buying it from the other end.
Oh.
So you're tokenizing electricity.
You're tokenizing electricity.
Okay.
And by bringing in this idea of smart contracts, it streamlines the entire process.
But tokenizing, let's say if you break it down, like let's say they break it down into, did something just stop?
Oh, okay.
That's
canon.
Yeah, I'll hold my question.
It's okay, the other two are still running.
Okay. Let's say you're saying, okay, so I'm still a little lost on the tokenization thing. So if you're saying tokenization is just breaking it down into these little bits of like little quantums that are transactable, isn't it like a kilowatt hour? Like you break down, you want to buy 5 kilowatt hours. How is a token?
No, it's not just breaking down the energy into smaller amounts, but also breaking down the value, also breaking down the amount that you're willing to pay into small little amounts.
Okay.
And it's building in these smart contracts where these things essentially will pay themselves. So the retailers get automatically paid
Yeah.
based on the amount of tokens that are bought. And it doesn't have to be individual particular contracts with, like, I will contract to buy this amount of electricity per month. It doesn't have to be. It all gets fed in, streamlined, and then fed out again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that means, let's say a telco where you can buy additional GB of data.
Yeah.
Right? Is that in some way tokenization of data?
That's only a single. No, I wouldn't say that's individual tokenization. But I guess you could move towards an idea where you have M1, Singtel, StarHub,
And Circles Life.
and what?
Circles Life.
And what?
Circles.life. It's a new
It's a
telco
new
in
telco,
Singapore.
yeah.
Cool story.
See, like you go Australia, forget Singapore.
You could potentially feed them all into a single marketplace.
Yeah.
Where all of their power, what do you call their telco-ness? Their telco-ness.
Service.
Bandwidth.
Data, I guess data.
Yeah,
The bandwidth,
bandwidth,
right?
yeah, okay.
All gets fed into and tokenized and split up,
Yeah.
and then gets redistributed and sold out and split up into tokens. And just depending on how much that they put in, they then get a percentage of what the retailers the consumers are buying on the other end.
Oh, so that means it's almost, okay, if I understand, right now the services we get from any particular service provider is dependent on us, like establishing alliance of us moving money
Yes,
to them, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Because even though Circles Life you can buy data per GB, you still need to sign up with them, right? Whereas these tokens, it's almost like you can just plug, and that whole process of getting money across, it's embedded in the
It's
token
embedded.
itself.
That's the idea of this thing called smart contracts.
Oh.
Just kind of like talk time over on your phone
And
and
you
all
can
that.
just hand it over, hand it on, hand it on, hand it
Oh,
on.
so you can
hand
pass it
on.
to someone.
Yeah, because
Oh.
that token has the inherent value, and that
Yeah.
can be passed on and on and on.
So that is considered cryptocurrency because it holds a set amount of value in it, which might not just be financial, like the electrify thing. There's that electricity component attached to it,
Yeah, there's a certain value attached to it. Yeah,
Wow.
which is still attached to a monetary value, like because you're
Yeah.
buying it.
yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
It gets pretty complex, and I
Yeah.
probably haven't explained it well enough. I get the electrify guys.
So
on
they're
the next
doing
show.
it specific to Singapore.
So they're starting in Singapore, but they're
Yeah.
expanding very rapidly all through Southeast Asia.
Mm.
And they've got more expansive plans that I'm not at liberty to talk about. But
Wow.
So
yeah.
technically, if you wanted to tokenize our YouTube videos,
Yeah.
like you just want that joke. No, but people don't pay for it. That's a stupid
No,
analogy.
who the hell's
No,
gonna pay for
no,
your
Fuck
job?
that.
Sorry.
No, I think I guess it's stuff that traditionally you never thought of as being able to pass
Split.
into. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like you got Netflix, Amazon, Disney, and all. Now you need to sign up before you get access to your whole
You
library.
sign up to one particular
Correct.
thing, and
Yeah.
whereas if you can tokenize I guess that works on like once you sign up, you've got it all. But imagine if it was according to like number of hours you watched,
Yeah.
Or what
example,
movies you
or
wanted.
what movies you watch, you could just sign up for the token.
Yeah.
You've tokenized it, and you just bought a certain number of tokens, and it was universal across all the different streams.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's almost like, let's say, is Expedia analogy of that where it's an aggregator of everything,
Yeah.
where you can go
I
and
mean, this is
buy.
only one sort of ICO. This is an
Yeah.
online marketplace ICO. Not all ICOs are.
Also, there are many types of ICOs.
There are many types of ICOs. Now
Damn.
it gets way too technical at this point.
Fucking hell.
But the idea is that this concept exists,
Yeah.
where even companies, the moving of companies from the traditional share model, so fiat currency to shares, and we're moving towards the same set of value being divided up via cryptocurrency in, tokens out,
Holy shit.
transition into a completely crypto model.
So that's where you're saying that the whole at the very core it's still blockchain.
It is still based on the blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So blockchain is gonna open up doors for fuckload of things.
Whole lot of things. One of the most exciting things for me, which isn't actually that exciting, is history.
Yeah.
What is the problem with history? History is just a version of events that has been agreed upon
By
by
the
the
right
people
people.
who are in power at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
Right? Most people don't know what actually happened in history, because
Yeah.
we only know what we've been fed now. If history was written in the blockchain, it can never be rewritten.
But at the same time, if so what about blockchain protects it from just being one person who writes it, it has to be verified by the various nodes.
It has to be verified by various nodes. And again, you can have various versions of history that are written at the same time. Like there can be various different blockchains, but at least you're getting that's different perspectives.
Yeah.
That's different from rewriting history. That's different from going back and erasing things out of the history textbook.
Yeah.
It's quite different from German textbooks where you do not have the entire history of the atrocities. It's different from most textbooks which don't talk about what the British did when they colonized.
Yeah.
Do you know that India had the third largest economy in the world before the arrival of the British?
Oh, really?
In the world. The third largest economy, and the British left it as a fucking mess.
Third largest economy.
From the third largest, and that is never talked about in history textbooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and this idea of Sashi Tharoor talks about how the one of the things that the British will always say is response like, we came in and we built the railroads, we built this transport network. Yeah, well, you came in and you built the railroads so you can get to rape and pillage that part of the country, right?
Yeah.
It was all about your access. Wait a minute, there's a whole lot of uncharted territory there that we haven't conquered and destroyed. And
what's the fastest way we can get there?
We'll build a train track. Yeah.
It's also, it sounds like ICO sort of solve a problem that we talked about earlier about transactions in Bitcoin being slower and taking longer, right?
And that's why they're not based on the Bitcoin network.
I see. Got it.
They're based on other cryptocurrencies.
Can these tokens be used to buy, let's say like for Electrify, but you want to use it for a telco? Can you take that token and use that
sure,
way?
if someone will pay for it.
Okay.
So what's being done to educate the future, like the young kids, about this sort of stuff, or it's just too new to be even like shared?
I don't know about young kids. I mean, how much do you learn about money? We should.
Yeah,
We
should
all learn about economics from a very young age, but we
Yeah,
don't. It's
exactly.
something we all had to teach ourselves, somehow fumble through.
Yeah.
So we should be learning about it earlier. But I'll be curious to see how finance degrees, what is it in US? What's their finance faculty? What are they teaching? Have they started? Is there much about cryptocurrencies in the curriculum? I'd be very curious to know, because hell, it should. What's the point of training up an entire generation?
If you look at what we do, I think it took a while before degrees in media actually factored in, like, YouTube is something that you guys should pay attention about.
Really?
Yeah, for the longest time it's always, YouTube is for amateurs. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, in the industry right now, you do get that sort of sentiment where people look at YouTube and Facebook. So I've heard from people in the industry as well say they don't want to put their videos on YouTube. They would rather put it on Vimeo because YouTube cheapens their content.
Right.
And I'm like, have you tried fucking watching a video on Vimeo and like buffering it in Singapore? It's fucking shit. So, and this was just last year. I think I had a huge debate with that person. Like, why? Just put it on both, dude. You're not killing anything. So there's this whole perception that anything new is like, or like if it's too mass, it cheapens. Fuck all that shit. so like I'm pretty sure that finance degrees in Singapore, probably around the world, have not caught up yet.
I'm sure they haven't caught up.
And I mean, most of the things that I read or see interviews, like what you said, the people who have been doing this for a while, they're like, Bitcoin is a fad. Bitcoin is gonna blow up. I mean, Bitcoin is gonna like burst and all this shit. That is, I think the card full.
Oh.
Yeah. I think also we just carry on for a few more minutes because with the it's been what, like an hour 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So many things also can talk about like non-Bitcoin, but I'll leave that for the future.
For the future. Episode 2.
Hunting kangaroos and all that. So many stories, dude.
I'll turn up in my Kelvin Brown cape.
Yeah. So you're still walking
Captain
out very often?
Test Tube.
You're still walking out very often now?
No man, I've lost so much fucking weight.
Yeah, fucking scrawny now, dude. Get your act together.
This is, I need to get back into it.
So you don't walk out at all now?
I do, but it's like once a week or something. It's pathetic. Once or twice a week.
Once a week?
I had a baseline.
Well, this is nonsense. What do you mean baseline?
I'd built up a baseline.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
compared to
baselines
how big
can
I was.
go like that, dude.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I'm
I
still
tell you, it's
eating
fucking
relatively
testing
healthy.
shit, lah.
I control I'm eating my fucking chocolate now. But
You come to Singapore, you like go, right?
everything. Hunt only. Had rice for lunch.
So where are you staying now in Singapore? At home?
Oh.
Yes,
We're not live at the moment, right?
No.
Do you know
No.
yeah, we'll go.
Okay.
Yeah. So like we've covered a lot today. I think that's I need to wrap my head around a lot of things that were discussed today. If people wanted to find out just a bit more about Bitcoin, right?
Yep.
Where should they look up? Or I mean, besides listening to this podcast, of course. Right?
Yeah.
Like where should people go to look or watch or read?
How to educate themselves.
Yeah. There isn't a single source that I would put out there. Unfortunately, that's what you're looking for. I'm not going to be able to give you that.
Yeah.
I can remember how I educated myself on crypto, which was to essentially read everything I get my hands on, of which there's a lot of information out there, and listen to podcasts, listen to there's a lot of YouTube channels dedicated to this, and just listen to everything you can, and eventually you will start to realize what makes sense and what doesn't, because it is hard to filter out the guys who don't know what they're talking about from the guys who know what they're talking about. But it was the stuff that doesn't make the more you read into it, after a while it becomes very clear what doesn't make any sense. So I would just start reading voraciously.
And how would Bitcoin help Singaporeans get the 5 C's as quickly as possible? Just because, I mean, that's an important question. I think a lot of people have.
What are the 5 C's again? Can you remind me?
Credit card. I don't know what it is. I don't know what
Credit
is a thing
card,
now.
cash, condo, car.
Country club.
Country club,
Yeah. I don't know what it's a thing now. Maybe when we were growing up, we heard it a lot. I haven't heard.
Country club.
I haven't heard. people-
6C, cryptocurrencies.
And the
Yeah.
6 C's.
No, but crypto. Oh, for some reason I thought cryptocurrency was spelled with a K, but I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah, I
Okay.
was thinking like.
Kryptonite.
Yeah, actually, it's a 6 C's.
The 6 C.
6C.
Yeah.
What? It's a 6
Born here. You heard it here first.
That's going to be the title of the podcast. The 6
6
C.
Put it on the ledger, Blockchain
Yeah,
ledger.
no one can take this away from us, man.
No.
6 C.
From a very, very simple-minded standpoint, there is a lot of money that is being made, and it is still very, very early days. Everyone is worried that, have I missed the boat? Have I missed the boat? Have I missed the boat? I've been hearing, have I missed the boat every 2 weeks for the last year, and the price has just gone up steadily. And they're like, well, when was the best time to buy? When was the best time to buy Bitcoin or crypto? Well, the best time was 6 months ago, and the best time then was 6 months before that. And the best time then was 6 months before that. The best time is to get in. And yes, there are times where it feels like the market is inflated, but I remember buying. Not the first time I bought in, but one of the later times when I bought in, and you kick yourself. You're like, I should have bought in more earlier. Why am I buying it now? Because it's like 3 times the price of when I first bought it.
Yeah.
You kick yourself. But between buying at $600 and buying at $2,000, and you're like, oh man, that's such a big difference. But then when it hits $20,000, you're like, well, actually that doesn't mean
Inconsequential.
it's completely inconsequential, and that's what you need to consider. And I do believe that the potential is huge. That we're nowhere close to even to what the maximum potential is. If you really think it's the future, then the market cap of Bitcoin at the moment is, from it's $200 billion, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. I think the market cap of gold is $7 trillion. So as more and more of the fiat currency market starts to slowly trickle over into the crypto market, the amount of volume, the amount of value is going to go up and up and up. And if you consider that Bitcoin is a limited resource, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, then that whatever value is going in has to be constantly divided by that same 21 million.
Yeah.
And with only 21 million Bitcoin out there isn't enough for everyone to be a Bitcoin millionaire.
Yeah.
Isn't enough to go around.
Yeah.
So there's not only a knowledge imbalance, but also a chronological imbalance, in that the earlier you get in, the greater slice of the pie you're going to have.
Damn. Okay. I still got a lot more questions, but I'll keep it for the next time. Do you have any other questions?
No, I think we're good.
So okay. So if I had to explain my final question, if I had to explain what Bitcoin is to my mom, right?
Yep.
In like 2 or 3 lines.
That is exactly what he said.
Is it?
It's
what
tough
would
to.
you say?
He says it's tough. People are always asking him to do it in 2 or 3 lines.
Yeah,
It's
I'm gonna be
like,
one of those people. Maybe 4 lines.
I'd say it's a digital currency, or it's a digital asset that stores value, that doesn't depend on any sort of centralized authority like a bank or a government. and its value is determined solely by the using populace.
Okay. Yeah, I think that works.
Yeah.
I might have to change a few words because if I tell my mom populace should be, what's populace? You mean the bookstore? Yeah.
Just tell us the 6C. Just tell us the 6C.
The
Oh,
6C.
beyond the 5.
Yeah. All right, cool, man.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you very much for
Thank you.
joining us, Dr. Prash.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Cool,
cool,
Thank you
man.
very much, Lee.
All right.
See you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks, man.
Cool.